And so now I will just remind everybody that for it's for the ease of other people hearing during presentations, please put your speaker on mute. And if you have a question, hit the raise your hand question or raise your hand tab. And then Brian will kind of interrupt us or let us know who's got a question or who has a comment. So I guess I'll get us started. I'm going to say it's 6 o'clock. I'd like to call order the Conservation Commission and Inland Wetland Agency meeting. Today is Thursday, May 21st, 6:20. I'm going to say it's 6 p.m. because that's what my watch says. Can I have the roll call, please?
Certainly. Ed Holowinko? Of course not. I'll start with John Malings.
Here.
Karen DeStefanis.
Here.
Ed Holowinko.
Here.
And Cheryl Brown.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. And Matt Pence. Holy cow, I almost forgot about you.
I wasn't sure if I made the cut.
Newest member, newest commissioner, Matt Pence, his first meeting tonight. So welcome.
I'm here. Thank you.
Welcome aboard. This is not our usual venue, but it might be this for a while, so bear with us. Some of us are not technical savvy, like me asking, where can you find the raise your hand? Not going like this, but so if you have any questions, feel free to ask them, raise your hand, especially if you have some questions about procedures and things like that. Alexis can definitely give you a lot of information, but as the meeting is progressing and you have a question, feel free to raise your hand.
Okay, thank you, Karen.
Sure. So I'm going to move on to receipt and discussion, and it looks like we had no new receipts. Is that true?
Not for this agenda, no.
Woohoo!
Correct.
Okay, so now we'll go on to discussion and or decision. The first item is S19 548 35 Huckleberry Drive South, Rich. Corrective action, removal of fill, restoration of wetlands, and construction of a 2-story addition in and adjacent to a wetland and water course.
All right. Well, the public hearing on this application concluded at your last meeting. And in your packet, you should have received a memorandum from myself and some revised planting plans. If I recall, in general, the concept, the grading and removal of the fill away from or outside of the wetland, and then making a series of terraced slopes was acceptable. Things to be ironed out include kind of defining where exactly the wetland line really is underneath all that fill, and then what kind of vegetative restoration would be most appropriate. I know there was a discussion regarding the fact that previously the wetland that was filled had been a wooded wetland, and that more trees would be appropriate for that restoration. The applicant has provided a revised plan that shows 15 more trees. So if you have any discussion regarding any elements, now's your time. Matt, since there was a public hearing on this application before you were a commissioner, you can't really opine, but that's really all I have.
I just want to say thank you, Cheryl, for requesting the additional trees. I think that was a really good call. And I think it made it a better plan. So.
Yep, I do too. I looked over the species. The only concern I had was about the green ash trees that they had They had specified 5 of them, and I know that there's an emerald ash borer that's been decimating them, and there's no treatment or anything really.
Oh.
So I
Right.
don't know if we can request a different species or anything like that, but that was the only thing. But I thought that, the quantity seemed to be, definitely sufficient.
Mhm. Yeah, I'd say that you can definitely, you want what they're proposing is a wetland restoration plan, and what you want to see a successful restoration and planting plan. So if you have doubt regarding a particular species, you can certainly include, in addition to conditions and limitations, modifications to kind of meet that goal of a attainable restoration plan. So
Okay.
that
I think
can
that would be
definitely be
important. I just know
altered.
that I've seen what they do, and there's nothing unless you treat it with an awful lot of pesticide. So I think, just another, wetland appropriate tree in substitution would be fine with me.
Okay, so
Okay.
would you consider making a motion then and just including that as part of the condition?
Yep. What do I do? I haven't made a motion.
So
Oh, okay.
you could, what do you do as far as the changing of that language?
Yeah. How do I state?
I would, so if you were to adopt the resolution that's in the staff memo from May 11th, with its 10 conditions, but maybe with one change to the special condition number 6, I guess. Or you could actually maybe just add a special condition that says that whatever you want regarding the trees, that the trees have to be native to Connecticut species, and don't have any, or you can specifically exclude the green ash, or you can.
Okay.
And John, did you want to jump in before the motion, or?
I had a question about the bond, but the language is acceptable to the agency, so we can talk about that afterwards.
Regarding the bond in a form acceptable to the agency?
Yeah, they wanted a surety bond, right?
Surety bond, yeah.
Yes, and they can do that unless you have an issue with a surety bond.
Okay, no, I think it's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, okay, Cheryl, let me just interrupt you, sorry.
Yeah.
Do any of the other commissioners have a question or any comments about this revised plan?
Oh, it looked pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think with Cheryl's addition or request for additional trees, that was good, so. I'm sorry, go ahead, Cheryl, go ahead and make your motion.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to approve the wetland permit for S19-548 35 Huckleberry Drive South, with the conditions that have been drafted for that application, with the addition of with the additional condition to exclude green ash, but to make another native substitution to the planting plan.
Great, okay. That motion's been made by Cheryl Brown. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Ed Halowinko. I'd like to just mention that the memorandum that Cheryl Brown has been talking about is from dated May 11th, 2020, from Alexis Caricetti with the 10 conditions and the modification. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. How do we do that again?
I can do a roll, I'll do a roll call.
Do
So
a
Karen
roll call.
DeStefanis?
Yes, aye.
Sorry, I'll go down the list. Cheryl Brown,
Aye.
Ed Halowinko,
Aye.
John Malin,
Okay, looks like that's passed.
and then Commissioner Pence would be abstaining.
Abstaining, yeah.
Did I get everyone? Yes. So confusing. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
excellent. All right, so now we're going to move on to S 2549, 310 Wilson Avenue, Webb Construction LLC, establishment of a contractor's yard for storage of processed materials adjacent to a wetlands.
So this application was received at your last meeting. There was some initial discussion at the receipt. I know that when we ended that last meeting, there was kind of a short list of just some items that the applicant was going to work on getting some additional information on. And I'll give the floor to Attorney Suchi, I guess.
Sure, thank you. Thank you everyone for taking the time tonight to schedule this meeting. Alexis is absolutely correct. We were before you about 3 weeks ago for a property at 310 Wilson Avenue. For the proposal is to use part of the property as a storage yard for processed materials, which would be processed next door at 34 Meadow Street. There are a variety of things you asked us to provide, some of which we've done. One question was what types of materials would be stored on the site, and in an email to Alexis about a week and a half ago, indicated that it's materials that are processed next door at 34 Meadow, as I indicated, including 3/4 inch crushed stone, 1 1/4 inch crushed stone, bedding sand, and processed aggregate. It would be for overflow purposes of all of those materials that are processed next door, currently processed next door and maintained outside. If in fact the approvals are granted by this commission and the zoning commission, any of the rock piles, materials piles must be covered. They can't exceed more than 20 feet in height. There is also some requests for better understanding of what the process is for general permit with DEP. And I've provided to Alexis via email a 2-page memo from Anchor Engineering Services, which describes what the general permit process is to obtain a permit for discharge of stormwater. That also includes a stormwater pollution prevention plan as part of that filing. And the memo describes what the process is, the documents needed, and I believe the standards of review that Anchor Engineering would undertake in connection with that permit. You also asked for additional information on the materials, the geotechnical, the material at the wall that's proposed along the edge of the property. And it's not been submitted to you as yet, as that component of this project is under review by DEP and also by the Zoning Commission. And in light of some comments raised by Brian in his capacity as staff of the Zoning Commission and by John Goucher of DEP, we're reviewing what other options might be available to accommodate the questions and answer the concerns and questions raised by those entities. So that's why that has not been submitted to you as yet. My understanding is there was a lengthy conversation with John Goucher at DEP yesterday with my client and one of his engineers. And we suspect that we'll have revised plans to address those concerns to be submitted to both you and DEP and the Zoning Commission as quickly as they can be created. So at this point, we have nothing else to share with you, but we wanted to update you on what you asked for, what we've submitted, and what remains outstanding.
Okay, so it would be tabled to the next meeting. Right now, your next meeting is scheduled for June 11th, which is I think the second Thursday of the month.
That's fine. And just for your information, we were supposed to have a preliminary review last night with the zoning commission, but in light of comments raised by staff and DEP, we thought it prudent to review those, address them, submit revised documents as soon as we possibly can, rather than go through a lengthy presentation and have questions that remain unanswered and to waste the commissioner's time and consultants' time. So the same for you this evening. We're happy to answer any questions you may have, but since we're going to be providing you with some revised documents, we certainly didn't want to spend any more time than is necessary this evening.
Do any of the commissioners have additional questions based on the new materials that were submitted to Alexis? Thank you, Attorney Suchi, for getting me that information on the material type. I appreciate that. Does anybody else have any comments or questions, follow-up? Oh, John,
Am I audible?
yes, you are now.
All right, I just wanted to say that, I've looked at the property and it seems like from the standpoint of wetlands, that everything is in order. And that I see no reason why we should, question its process through the CAM and other procedures they have to go through.
Matt, you had your hand raised?
Yeah, I had a question. I know there was some maps. Is there a visual of what that space looks like now and maybe an illustration of what it will look like with the 20-foot walls?
Hold on, Matt. I don't think I could not quite hear you.
Oh, I apologize. Any better?
There we go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Better.
Yeah, I know there are some maps passed around. Is there a better visual of what that space looks like now and an illustration of what it'll look like once the proposed 20-foot walls and barriers are built?
Still having trouble hearing you.
Yeah, I didn't hear it.
Yeah.
He's looking for,
Maybe,
I don't know if you, can you hear me, Alexis? He's looking for a pretty much just a image of the property as it exists now, and then one, like some sort of drawing that shows what it would look like if with the 20-foot walls.
Oh, so, okay. So we, let's see. So there are some aerial photographs of what it looks like now, and I can pull those up again. And then I don't know, for zoning, are you required to do, or do you have a rendering of the yard area?
We don't have not a rendering. We have the site plan with the proposed wall, and then we have the existing survey of the site. But I don't think we would need some sort of architectural drawing.
Is that what you were looking like, just kind of helping to envision what it looks like, would look like?
Yeah, I was just looking for a visual of what, what it's going to look like once it's, the proposed work is done.
Right. Okay.
I could provide you with, Alexis, with a few photos of the adjoining yard just to give a sense of how it functions. And that's kind of the best we can do for the site that is next door. We could also provide you with some photos of the site, which were taken just this week. We also used, I guess 3 weeks ago, aerial maps of the city. So if that's of help to Commissioner Pence, maybe those could be called up, if not at this meeting, then at the next one. But if there are other images that we can get you that would make it that would be helpful to you, we're happy to do that. I'll send Alexis some photos this week of existing conditions as well.
Okay, I appreciate it. I have some catch up to do as well. So thank you. And just one other question. You mentioned that there's overflow now. Are you expecting more overflow as part of this project, or it's just the same amount?
Well, right now, the materials that are processed at my client's property at 34 Meadow, the site is self-contained, and we can only process and store there that which we can with respect to height of piles and where they're located. So the area on 310 Wilson Avenue would be for whatever we could process and not be able to store at 34 Meadow, we would bring it next door, this is directly adjacent to the 34 Meadow site.
Okay.
I don't know if I answered your question well enough, but it would be whatever, it's for additional storage capacity based upon the aggregate that's processed at 34 Meadow.
Right, and so are you expecting an uptick in processing?
I'm not sure if we would consider it an uptick. It's just we're limited in how much we can process and store given the confines of 34 Meadow Street. So I'm sure that they would like to be more successful, and that's the hope, that if they are, we need more space in order to store that processed material. And any processing that takes place is materials that are completely controlled by Webb Construction. It's not a site where any outsider can come in, any other operator can just show up on a 7 a.m. on a Tuesday and have their load processed. It's materials that are maintained and brought in and processed only by Webb Construction.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No? Okay, well, then, Alexis, you said this will be on the next meeting's agenda, so that'll be great. And Attorney Sochi, if you can get us that information, that'll be fantastic. Thank you.
Certainly, I'll provide information to Alexis this week, and should the plan change based upon the comments raised in our way of addressing those comments, we'll get plans to Alexis as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds good. All right.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice
Thank you all.
weekend.
Okay.
And I hope everyone
You
stays
too.
safe.
Thank you.
Happy
You
Memorial
too.
Day.
Thank you. Okay, I guess we'll go on to item 5, which is bond release / reduction. S19 542 6 Leslie Lane, Perez, reduction of bond $980 held for corrective action, removal of fill and restoration of a wetland.
Right. So, this is a corrective action application that you saw this past, when was it? I want to say in the fall. No, yeah, in the early fall last year, there was a small encroachment into the wetland where Mr. Perez did some landscaping work, and he pulled that back and did some plantings. He has completed that. The bond is two-part. There's a portion that's held for 2 growing seasons for the plantings, and then there's the part for the fill removal and the stabilization of the site. So this would be 1/2 of the bond, and it's just for the stabilization of the site. It looks great. Brenda was out there early March, and it looks fantastic. So we would recommend a reduction of $980 for this permit.
So do I hear a motion for that release?
So moved. I move that we accept the bond release and reduction as described by staff on S19-542 6 Leslie Lane, Mr. Perez.
Motion's been made by John Mailing. Is there a second? I will
I'll
second.
second that.
Oh, Cheryl
Oh,
Brown.
sorry.
Second. No, that's okay. I went too fast. Cheryl Brown seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, we have a roll call, please.
Yeah, so all of you can vote on a bond release, even if you weren't present. So Karen DeStephanis?
I vote aye.
Ed Halowinko?
Aye.
John Mailing?
Aye.
Matt Pence?
Do you need a vote for me? I have no position here. I'm not up to speed, so I'm sure it's fine, but do you need a vote for me?
You don't have to. You can abstain.
I abstain then.
All right. Cheryl Brown?
Aye.
All right. So 4. All right. That was it.
Let me unmute. Okay, so approval of the minutes, April 30th, 2020 minutes. I only saw one typo on the first paragraph, which COVID has 2 eyes. I think you have to remove one of those.
Okay.
And that's all I had for changes. Anybody else?
No.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes of April 30th, 2020 with the one correction. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Ed Hallowenko. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, we'll do a roll call.
Karen DeStefanis,
Aye.
Cheryl Brown,
Aye.
Matt Pence,
Aye.
John Nalen,
Aye.
Ed Hallowenko.
Aye.
Okay, so we have section 7 public comments. I don't see anything under that. So we'll move on to section 8, which is comments of staff.
All right. Let's see, other than the reviewing a whole bunch of pool permits, we have had a few violations. We actually did send out 2 orders earlier this week on Monday. Typically, when we issue an order, we're required to hold a show cause hearing within 10 days of the issuance of the order. So that would be today. But getting in contact with one of the owners has been difficult. So I think that we will be having 2 show cause hearings at your next meeting on June 11th. We'll have to reissue those and work that out. I think enforcement process is going to be a little difficult virtually, getting people to log on and the whole thing. But so we're working on that. So yeah, one is just a residential homeowner who actually has a permit to do renovations at the house, and they decided to do some extra excavation adjacent to a watercourse. And then the other is a contractor that happens to be close to a wetland that appears to have done some clearing. That one was tabled because the work may have been done in conjunction with Eversource, which may already have an approval from PURA, the state agency, PURA, that regulates utilities. So we're trying to sort out who did what at that site. They have a lot going on. All I know is that a portion of it was in a wetland. So we'll get to the bottom of that. But so we'll deal with those at the next meeting on the 11th.
Where is that site, Alexis?
It is at the old armory off of New Canaan Avenue, where Mr. Penna now is. It's a very large wetland in the rear. They haven't done anything in the rear. This is just right by the front. There have been 2 stages of activity. The first was this clearing that I mentioned. Some trees were removed from the wetland. They were chipped, and then the chips were deposited in the wetland. And I still think that was unrelated to the Eversource work. And then Eversource is working very close to it, but not exactly in that area, doing laying line very close to the other wetland that's right on the other side of the driveway. So there's a lot going on, and a lot kind of that wasn't me that we're sorting through. But it's right at the armory.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
And it's nothing huge. It's just the scope isn't significant, but the proximity is right in. So. Yeah, those are really my only comments.
Okay. Next item, comments of commissioners. Does anybody have anything they need to bring up? The next meeting is June 11th. Hopefully you all can make it. Okay.
Carol's wishing she couldn't.
Flying out to Paris for the weekend, are you?
Hold on, you're muted, Cheryl. Hold on, let me.
I just
Sorry.
haven't that far in the future yet, so. You know, every day is kind of the same right now.
I know, I know.
Right. Wetland meeting, something to look forward to.
Okay,
All right.
if there's no other comments, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, made by Cheryl Brown and seconded by
I'll do it.
Ed Hallowenko. I got a winner.
Can we just do acclamation? Do we have to do roll call on adjournment?
No,
No, not on adjournment. There is no discussion with adjournment. If there's a motion and a second, it's a done deal.
it's done.
All right. Stay well, everybody.
You
All right.
too.
Good night,
You
Thanks a
everybody.
lot.
Bye, good
Take
night.
care.